Unit 731. Japan's army set up a secret lab in China during World War II. General Shiro Ishii was in charge. They kidnapped soldiers, regular people, and even little kids. They infected them with diseases like cholera and plague. Doctors cut open living people without any painkillers. They wanted to see how diseases spread inside of the body. Victims were called logs, so guards wouldn't think of them as humans. They froze people's arms and legs, then cut them off to study frostbite. After the war, America let Ishii and his team go free. They traded their freedom for the lab's research. Over 300,000 people died. No one was ever punished. Tuskegee syphilis study. The U.S. government lied to 600 black men in Alabama. Doctors promised free health care and meals, but 399 of the men had syphilis, which was a dangerous disease. The doctors never told them. When penicillin became a cure in 1947, the doctors hid the cure from them. They wanted to watch how the disease killed the men. After the men died, doctors did autopsies to study their bodies. Wives and children caught syphilis too. The study only stopped in 1972 when a whistleblower told reports. By then, 128 men had died. The government apologized but never paid the families for compensation. Stanford prison experiment. A psychologist turned the basement into a fake prison. College students played guards and prisoners. Guards became cruel within hours. They forced prisoners to stay awake, stripped them naked, and made them do humiliating tasks. One prisoner started screaming and crying after just one day. The experiment was supposed to last 2 weeks, but they stopped it after 6 days. The psychologist admitted he got too caught up in his role. People still argue, was this science or just torture? Project MKUltra. The CIA ran secret psychedelic drug experiments on people, even people who didn't agree. They tested LSD and shrooms on sex workers, mentally ill patients, and even their own workers. In San Francisco, they gave men LSD in brothels and watched them through mirrors. Some people were locked in empty rooms for months. At least 2 people died. One scientist was drugged and fell out of a window. The CIA burned almost all the files in 1973. Only a few papers were left. Survivors never got justice, and it's been really lost to this day. Milgram obedience experiments. A Yale professor wanted to know why people follow evil orders. Volunteers were told to shock a man, who was an actor, if he answered questions wrong. The actor screamed and begged for them to stop. If volunteers hesitated, a scientist in a lab coat said, "You must keep going." 65% of people shocked the man until he seemed dead. The professor said normal people will hurt others if a boss tells them to. This study explains why Nazis followed orders. Guatemalan STD Experiment. U.S. doctors infected 1,500 people in Guatemala with STDs. They paid prostitutes with diseases to have sex with prisoners. They also injected mental patients with syphilis. Only 700 people got medicine. The study was kept secret for decades until a historian found the truth in 2010. President Obama said sorry, but victims got no money. Many died painful deaths, and this was all an attempt to study STDs. The Monster Study. A researcher picked 22 orphans in Iowa. Half were told they spoke perfectly, the other half were bullied and called stutterers. Kids who spoke fine started stuttering for life. The researcher's assistant felt guilty and called it the Monster Study. The university waited 62 years to apologize. The orphans suffered forever because of one man's curiosity. Operation Sea Spray. The U.S. Navy sprayed germs over San Francisco. They wanted to test bioweapons. The germs were thought to be harmless, but 11 people got very sick with infections. One man, Edward Nevin, died. The Navy didn't tell the public until 1976. Today, we know these germs can kill. The government never apologized to the families or gave them any money for compensation. The Aversion Project. In South Africa, gay soldiers were tortured by the military. Doctors gave them electric shocks and forced drugs on them. Some were forced to have sex change operations. The main doctor, Aubrey Levin, later fled to Canada. There, he was arrested for assaulting male patients. South Africa's government never apologized. Many victims still suffer from trauma. Project Sunshine. The U.S. stole dead bodies from hospitals around the world. They took over 1,500 bodies without asking parents. They tested the bones for radiation from nuclear bombs. Parents were told that their babies' bodies were just lost. The lead scientist won a Nobel Peace Prize. Families never got answers or apologies. Just dead babies. 3 identical strangers. 3 identical twins were adopted by different families as babies. They didn't know each other until age 19, though. A secret study split them into rich, middle class, and poor homes. Scientists wanted to see how money changed people. All 3 struggled with mental illness. One twin, Eddie, died by suicide. Twins were treated like lab rats and not humans. Biosphere 2. Scientists built a giant glass world in the desert. 8 people lived inside for 2 years, but the air turned bad. Plants died, ants ate all the food. The group split into fighting teams. One person sneaked in candy. The project cost 200 million and failed. It showed that humans cannot control nature. Nazi human experiments. Nazi doctors did horrible things to prisoners. They sewed twins together to make conjoined twins. They injected dye in the kids' eyes to try to change their eye color. They put people in pressure chambers until their lungs exploded. After the war, 23 doctors were put on trial. 7 were hung. The worst doctor, Josef Mengele, escaped to South America. He lived free until he died of old age. Willowbrook Hepatitis Study. At a school for disabled kids, doctors fed them poop milkshakes. They wanted to give them liver disease on purpose. Parents were tricked into signing forms. The doctor said, they'll get sick anyway. He later became a famous medical leader. The kids suffered for years. No one was punished, and no one found out. The Testicle Factory. A prison doctor cut out inmates' private parts. He replaced them with testicles from animals like goats. He thought this would stop criminals from acting bad. I don't even know how you get that idea. When he ran out of animal parts, he ground them in the paste and injected it into prisoners. Many got infections. Some went crazy. His ideas were fake science. He retired in 1951. The prison let him keep experimenting for 38 years. Cancer cell injections. A doctor named Chester saw them injected cancer cells into 600 people. He didn't ask for permission at all. He just used prisoners and sick patients. Many grew tumors. Other doctors refused to help, so he tested on old people in a hospital. In 1964, he lost his medical license for 1 year. His experiments led to new laws. Doctors must ask before testing on people. How the hell is that not a law yet? Prison dermatology experiments. A doctor paid prisoners $300 to test poisons on them. They got burns and scars that never healed. He used the research to make a cream for acne. He got rich. The prisoners got sick. In 2000, survivors sued the doctor and companies, but courts said it was too late to punish anyone, which makes no sense. Electroshock on children. A psychopathic doctor named Loretta Bender shocked kids as young as 3. She said that they were crazy for acting normal, like staring at walls. The shocks caused permanent memory loss. One boy, Howard Doley, got a freaking lobotomy after the shocks. He couldn't even remember his childhood. The doctor became a professor and never said sorry or got any consequences. Project Artichoke. The CIA wanted to control people's minds, literally. They tested drugs like LSD and heroin on prisoners and soldiers. They used hypnosis and locked people in dark rooms for weeks. A scientist named Frank Olson was drugged without his knowledge. Days later, he fell from a hotel window. The CIA burned most of the files. Survivors got no help or apology.